Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 30-day video reseller challenge. And in this session, we are going to be talking about setting up your training channel. We talked about the 4 different kinds of information channels, and we talked about your talk channel. And what we're going to talk about now is the training channel, right? The training channel. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about helping your customers succeed with your products and services. Now, a regular training session is going to be a good way of being in touch with your customers, right? And you're also going to be getting value at the same time. And what you should be doing is you should be thinking about, if you're going to train people, you should be doing this in an audio-visual medium. Now, obviously, if you're local, you can do an in-person event. I mean, that's really cool. And if you have people that are willing to come out, maybe you've got some kind of meetup, or sometime you've got something, and you've got a meeting room that you have on a regular basis, I think that if you can meet with people locally, you're going to have a lot more high touch, and you're probably going to be able to ask more for your products and services. But most cases, we're probably talking about training people using audio visual. And the most convenient way to do this is use some kind of paid webinar service like Zoom or GoToWebinar, right? Maybe you've got Webinar Jam, but some kind of webinar service is typically going to be the best way of being able to make sure that you've got a private audience, right? That everything that you produce doesn't necessarily get shown to everybody. And so you can also, now if you don't have any of those things and you don't want to buy it, right? There are things that are going to be less private. You can do YouTube Live, but I think you can set it to private. It's a little clunky trying to get people there. If you're trying to keep it private, same thing's going to be true with Facebook Live, unless you've got a specifically a private group. Coming up is going to be LinkedIn Live. Now, not everybody has LinkedIn Live yet, but they are going to be rolling this out to other people. So again, if you've got business-related clients, you may want to start using LinkedIn now, so that when they make it available widely, you'll be able to be one of those that they select. Now, depending on when you hear this, LinkedIn Live may already be available to you. Now, one way to think about this training, in its vision, when you think about your training, right, and you want to think about it when it's completed, right? What is your training going to look like when it's completed and when it's shared on social media? Right? So what kinds of things, when you think about, if you were to talk about your training, if you were to talk it up on social media, what would be the title that would attract your target customer? Right? What do they want to know? Again, we go back to these same questions. What do they want to know that isn't being addressed or solved? Now, a lot of ways, your training can be placed in and optimized in search. And so what you're doing, whether it's search or social media, is bringing people to your branded properties. And you really shouldn't look at this as high stakes training, right? So we're not talking about this kind of training as your high pitch sort of sales webinar, right? So this is not going to be your high pressure pitch. Now, again, I'm not against high pressure pitches, just not for your training, right? You want to bring people on a sales webinar for that. You should be doing this on an ongoing basis. This is a regular training. It should be done on a regular basis. That's what makes it training, right? So people can kind of look forward to being trained. Now, if you don't want to do it weekly, I think that's how often you should do it. But if you don't want to do it that weekly, that's not a little bit too much work, or it doesn't fit your schedule, then just make sure that you do it at the same time and you keep it on a regular basis and on a schedule. And so when you do this kind of training on a regular basis, you will always have something to share on social media, and that's going to be good content. If you do something this week that doesn't really resonate with people or get a good response, you always have the following week to approve, and that's really the benefit of doing this on a regular basis. Let's say that you do something this week, and people say, "Hey, that wasn't all that great," or people don't come because they didn't like the title. Doesn't matter. Right? Because you're going to do another one on the following week. And some people are going to come to your training archive, and they're going to see all your training there, and they're going to say, you know what, I trust this man. I trust this woman, right? Because of all the training that you're doing. When you create a training archive, what you're doing is building trust. Your body of work proves your expertise in some cases. Right, so let's say that you get on, on a single episode, and some people kind of start hearing, or some people come to a training and they hear you think you're a genius. You know what really works better is them seeing your body of work, right? That will really prove your expertise. And so you want to always try to keep attendance semi-private. So you don't necessarily always want to make it available to everybody. You don't want everybody there, right? You want to be able to prove your expertise. And look, training is just a part of your traffic infrastructure. That's the way you have to look at it. Don't look at it as extra work. This is part of your traffic infrastructure. It is a path for people to find you. It is a breadcrumb, right? And when you start doing this on a regular basis, what's going to happen is you're going to develop a steady stream of individuals interested in your brand. And even though some people are going to find your training archive in your social media area, you want to have your archive on your branded property. That's where people should find it. I mean, it's fine to have it in your YouTube channel, your fan page. That's cool, but it really should be on your branded property. And then, I mean, since the training is going to be audio and video, make sure you have it on a site you own and control. Make sure it's also stored and backed up in cloud storage. Please do these two things, right? Anything can happen to your training, and you don't want to go back having lost it, trying to recover it. Make sure it's on your site. Again, please do not just put it on YouTube and leave it alone. Put it on your site. Make sure it's also stored and backed up. You should never rely on your content being served by YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Anything can happen to your content. And I know that you've heard horror stories about this. I've heard them too. You need to make sure that you treat your content as if it's gold, right? Because when you look back, let's say that, you look back over the course of the year. Let's say that you did, 48 trainings over the course of a year. You know what you have? You have an archive. That training is gold then. When you first get started, it's going to feel like a burden. But by the time you get to the end of the calendar year and you look back and say, boy, I did 40 trainings. I did 50 trainings. I did a weekly training every week every week that year. You then have something that's gold. Please do not entrust your gold to YouTube, to Facebook, or LinkedIn. If it's all possible, you should have your content being served on the private video hosting site. Now, again, they may not be where you are right now, but eventually that's where you want to be, right? Eventually that's where you want to be. Okay, if this has been helpful to you in any way, please give us a shout out at theplrshow.com/shout. Make sure that you are subscribed at our site at theplrshow.com. Also, if you need hosting for your learning center, please make sure that you head over to theplrshow.com/LCHSTNG. And then there's also funnel building software at theplrshow.com/FSCRTH.